Hi everyone, this is Selvi. Today we are going to talk about a topic. What are the advantages of backlog refinement efficiency? We already talked about certain topics like product backlog health, average velocity, backlog refinement efficiency. I request you all first to listen these topics and then listen to this particular episode. In that way, it will be really beneficial for you. So today our topic is, okay, we are calculating backlog refinement efficiency. Where are we using that value? What is the advantage of that backlog refinement efficiency? That is what we are going to discuss today in this episode. So before getting into the topic, I'm slightly going to talk about certain basic information which is required for this topic. Like, what is a product backlog health? In simple terms, it is a value which is going to indicate us whether our product backlog is really healthy or not. If not healthy, how to ensure that we can have more backlog refinement sessions to bring the product backlog into a healthy state. In case, what if actually it is beyond the threshold that we have set for the health indicator? It is also very important to reduce or eliminate backlog refinement sessions for a period of time so that we are not overachieving the value there. We already talked about this as well, like what is the disadvantage if we cross the limit of product backlog health, and what are the challenges if we are not meeting the product backlog health what we have set. So I'm not going to discuss about that topic here, but very important to understand here is what is product backlog health. So product backlog health is an indicator which helps us to understand where are we with respect to the product backlog. Where are we with respect to product backlog means in the product backlog how many work items are already refined and also estimated so that they are actually in the ready state for the sprint execution. So how many such items are there? That gives the indicator product backlog health. Why it is important? Because we should really know the product backlog health so that we can plan backlog refinement sessions accordingly. So now we know we need to plan the backlog refinement sessions to achieve product backlog health. Product backlog health is very important because that gives the indicator that we are really ready for the sprint execution with certain work items in our product backlog which are in the refined state. Now, where comes this backlog refinement efficiency and what is the advantage of using the backlog, or what is the advantage of calculating this backlog refinement efficiency? So we already talked about how to calculate backlog refinement efficiency, so I'm not going to talk about that here. Instead, I'm going to give a very quick information here. Backlog refinement efficiency is going to give us a value in 1 hour how many story points we can refine. What does that mean actually? That means in 1 hour of backlog refinement session, how many story points are actually refined by the team. Like they are picking up so many work items, clarifying the doubts, resolving the dependencies, capturing the risk and dependencies, and finally whatever the work items that are really ready for estimation, they are estimating it. So now it is very important to understand how much or how many user stories or how many work items they have refined and got so and so story points. That is actually the number of story points that have been refined in the backlog refinement session. For example, a team, let's take team A is actually refining user stories and the backlog refinement efficiency is 20 story points. That means, what is that stating? That means the team is actually investing 1 hour of time to achieve 20 story points. Are we going to calculate this from one backlog refinement session? Definitely not. That is not at all a good idea anytime in calculating any of these threshold values or metrics. It is always important you should follow a pattern. That means you should always calculate the average value. So many number of sessions, so many number of backlog refinement sessions happen. And from those sessions, how many story points have been refined? From that, as an average value, calculated 1 hour, how many story points the team has refined. This is the actual calculation methodology to find the backlog refinement efficiency. Okay, now I found the backlog refinement efficiency. My team's backlog refinement efficiency is 20 story points. Now, where I'm going to use this? Now, we already talked about product backlog health. So my team's product backlog health should be, actually speaking, it should be 80 story points. Okay, which means I have set 80 story points as a good option or a good indicator for the product backlog health. But right now, my team is actually with 60 story points in the product backlog health. So there is a gap of 20 story points. So now I need to plan a backlog refinement session for 1 hour that is on an average, which is going to help me to fill this gap. Just it's an average value, right? So maybe sometimes team can only give 15 story points. Maybe you are again short of 5 story points. That's why I'm saying may or may not. But at least you are able to calculate that. Okay, but what is the advantage of this? Like, yeah, I'm able to understand I need 1 hour to fix this gap. It is very important. Sometimes you can hear this statement, every week we plan a backlog refinement session in our team. Is it really important? Is it the way that we need to define the backlog refinement session? Definitely not. Then what is the logic behind scheduling the backlog refinement session? First of all, calculate the product backlog health of your team. Product backlog health is very, very specific to your team. Depends on the product's maturity, depends on the team. It may vary. So it is again up to your team what product backlog health indicator that you have set. Like greater than 80, it is good. Less than 60, it needs improvement. Whatever it is. First thing, calculate the product backlog health. This is going to give us the information where we have gaps, whether we are already right on the threshold value, or we are lagging somewhere where we need to catch up, or we are already like achieved more than what we expect. If we have achieved more than what we expect as a value, please do not plan further backlog refinement sessions. This is an indicator. It's very simple, right? Because more and more you add or you refine, not add, more and more you refine the product backlog items, and your product backlog health is super good. What if actually like your most of the items in the product backlog are already refined? We are working in Agile world. There are high chances your requirements may get into an invalid state, or in certain situations, there are high chances that may get into a scope change. So now it is very risky. If we are keep refining the items, there are high chances you may already invested lot of time in invalid requirements related refinement sessions. So it is always very, very important to maintain that threshold value. Do not overachieve here, because if you have achieved so many things, there are high chances you have invested a lot of time, but at the end of the day, those all things are invalid. What is the use? You have invested the time of the team and you have documented the stuff, and it is of no use now. That is one of the important reasons we also use the ordering option in the product backlog. Whatever the things which are very clear for the product management, they stay on top of the product backlog, so that we take those items, we pick up those items for the refinement, we clarify them, we completely refine them, we identify the dependencies, risk, everything, we estimate it, and we are all good with refinement. We don't get too much deep into the product backlog because product management, they themselves have no much clarity because they are also trying to refine them, right? So it is very important, stick to the threshold value that you are setting. That's why I said depends on the team, depends on the maturity of the product, this value is actually defined. The product backlog health indicator value is defined based on the maturity of the product and the team's maturity. Now, okay, the value is too much than the expected value, so you have taken this option. What if actually it's too less than the expected value? Like in my case, 80 is the product backlog that shows that it is a very healthy backlog. But unfortunately, my current backlog health indicator states that it is just 60, which is actually there is a gap of 20. Now it clearly tells me that there is a gap in my product backlog health, which I need to fix. That means I need to plan some product backlog refinement sessions. Now, team is effectively working on their sprints. Sprint execution is going on. And we are very much getting closer to our release. So it is very important for me when I am pulling my team's time for these refinement sessions. I need to be very, very clear. I cannot just block their time and my product management team members' time. It is very important how we can plan this very well. So for that, I am going to use this backlog refinement efficiency indicator. So this is going to tell me, hey, your team on an average, they spend like 1 hour of time and they will be able to refine like 20 story points. Now, actually, I want to refine 20 story points, right? So if I plan and block 1 hour of time, that should be sufficient. If my team is actually spending more time in one of the work item, it is also very important as a Scrum Master to manage the time in the session. That's number one. And number two, I can also think about having an extra session. So it is very, very important for us to plan. This indicator is going to help me. So this indicator is going to tell me, hey, just plan for 1 hour so that you will be able to achieve 20 story points. What if I don't have this indicator? I have no clue. I know 20 story points should be achieved, but whether it will take 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, no idea, because I have never calculated the efficiency of any of my team's backlog refinement session. So I cannot plan. It is very important that you schedule all the events. For scheduling all the events, we should have a logic. It should not be something like every week I schedule 1 hour for my team's backlog refinement session. No, that's not the right logic. What if actually you are already in a good product backlog health? Why there is a need for having a backlog refinement session this week? You can skip it. And if you want a session, how many hours you need? How to calculate it? What is the logic behind that calculation? For that, we use this backlog refinement efficiency indicator. So, in a nutshell, it is very important to maintain a team's product backlog health. To maintain a team's product backlog health, we should be aware of where we are today with respect to the value. When we say where are we today, whether there is a gap or already we are in a very good shape, we don't know. So first of all, find that. If there is a gap, I need to plan backlog refinement session. So the next question is like, how many hours? For that, I am going to use this backlog refinement efficiency indicator to understand how many hours required to fix that gap to achieve so and so story points in the refinement session. So this is one of the important topic, practically very well used to plan the backlog refinement sessions, just to get this logic behind how many hours we need to plan so that we can effectively handle the meeting sessions. I hope this episode helped many of you to understand about this important topic. Thank you everyone for listening. Happy learning and stay tuned.